Another day, another Biden electoral pledge broken. Instead of reducing the number of prisoners in American prisons, they've shot through the roof. Could it be because prisoners are profitable? Hello there, you 5.7 million awakening wonders. Thank you for joining me on this voyage towards the light. Recognize within you there is a great wisdom waiting to be released, that you cannot continue to be conditioned in this manner. Throw off the shackles of the mainstream media and join us on this pathway to truth together. If you're still free, that is, because Biden, in spite of his electoral promises, is banging up more people than ever. And $11 billion of profit is being made each year by the incarcerated. Is there a word for that? People that have got no freedom earning money for others. Has American history got any connection with that stuff?
Equality, equity, fairness, decency. These words are the basis for the American creed.
These words don't mean anything when it comes to the crunch. It might as well be a poem. You might as well have said banana, hopscotch, nipples, rat trap. I mean, just can say anything if you're not going to do anything about it afterwards. The fact is that Biden campaigned as a moralist against Trump, who was posed as a kind of grotesque gargoyle of all that's wrong with capitalist America. I know loads of you love Trump, but that's how that argument was presented. One explicit electoral promise was to reduce the number of incarcerated Americans. Well, that hasn't happened. You may have noticed other promises that have not been fulfilled.
That's why I proposed a comprehensive criminal package in this campaign. It begins with passing the Safe Justice Act.
All justice should be safe. You can't have dangerous justice. It's almost a contradiction in terms.
My plan goes further. No mandatory minimums. The end of private prisons.
Yeah, get rid of private prisons. Private prisons are actually quite profitable. Did I say end private prisons? I meant friend private prisons.
Additional funding for drug courts, bail reform, no juveniles at all in adult prisons, mandatory treatment, not jail for those with drug addiction, decriminalizing marijuana, automatically expunging records for marijuana convictions.
Like, no wonder people voted for him. This sounds amazing. I would vote for that. This is good stuff. Decriminalize marijuana, help people be nice, be friendly, stop judging everyone, except for people that obviously require some sort of judgment. What a fantastic campaign. What a fantastic video. What fantastic propaganda. What are the results of Biden's presidency? What are you clinging on to now, America?
For marijuana conviction. Jobs.
I like the video's got like little bits of applause in it. As if that's not done in an edit, as if that's actually happening, as if Biden's saying something that comprehensively and getting applause. You know, in real life, Biden would be going, shall may, shall may, she shall by the, oh, no.
No one should be going to jail because they are addicted. They should be going into rehabilitation. For all our problems, I have to say I've never been more optimistic about the nation's future.
Disgusting that this is what passes for politics in the most powerful and in some ways the most beautiful nation on earth. I spent a lot of time in your country if you are an American or a person that lives there, and it's a fantastic place, fantastic people. And this is what governs you, this kind of propagandist filth. You deserve better.
They are ready. They've had enough. I believe my criminal justice reform package is as strong or stronger than anyone else's. I'm amazed how far we've come, but I know how much further we have to go and what we're capable of doing. And we can get there together.
Fine and fancy words. Meanwhile, back on planet Earth, incarcerated workers in the US produce at least $11 billion in goods and services annually, but receive just pennies an hour in wages for their prison jobs, according to a new report from the American Civil Liberties Union. You might think, oh, well, people in prison, and they deserve to be treated, blah, 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 throw away the key, all of that sort of stuff. But let's just remember that Biden campaigned on pledges of reduction of prison population, of treating drug addicts like people that were sick, and I have a personal interest in this, rather than as criminals. And look at the reality. When reality happens, when people realize, oh, actually, turns out private prisons are pretty profitable and using prison labour is quite an effective way of generating revenue, then that's the reality of politics. Just don't make the videos. Just say, I'll come in, I'll be more or less the same as everybody else, and things will deteriorate. Nearly 2/3 of all prisoners in the US, which imprisons more of its population than any other country in the world, have jobs in state and federal prisons. That figure amounts to roughly 800,000 people, researchers estimated in the report. You've got to know that there are figures and graphs that demonstrate the efficacy and economic potency of that population. There are people that go, we've got 800,000 labourers that work for basically nothing. ACLU researchers say the findings outlined in Wednesday's report raise concerns about the systemic exploitation of prisoners who are compelled to work sometimes difficult and dangerous jobs without basic labour protections and little or no training while making close to nothing. I'm sure by now most people that are watching this, and let me know in the comments if this is true, know someone that's either a drug addict or mentally ill and as a result got themselves into legal difficulties. But I bet there are less of you that know people that have had drug addiction issues that have led to crime, and also are the President of the United States whose children haven't faced those kind of consequences. Most incarcerated workers are tasked with general prison maintenance that is crucial to keep the facilities running, according to the ACLU researchers. State governments and the prison system are extracting tremendous value from a captive and exploited workforce, all while claiming they can't afford to pay them a livable wage, said Jennifer Turner, the principal author of the report. Those of you that think that the immigration crisis in your country, the Mexico border, etc., is contributing to low wages for working people of all races and colours should consider that there's a workforce of 800,000 people working basically for nothing in prison right now. More than 80% of incarcerated labourers do general prison maintenance, including cleaning, cooking, repair work, laundry and other essential services. For paid non-industry jobs, workers make an average of 13 cents to 52 cents an hour, according to the report. 7 states, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, South Carolina and Texas, pay nothing for the vast majority of prison work. Incarcerated workers who are paid often see most of their pay withheld for taxes, room and board expenses and court costs, the report states. Oh man, that's rough, huh? More than 75% of workers told ACLU researchers if they can't work or decline to do so, they are subject to punishments ranging from solitary confinement to the loss of family visits to the denials of sentence reductions. This is appalling exploitation. For a moment, please compassionately consider these people that live lives behind walls and behind doors, that have lived lives that have led them to that circumstance. I'm not abdicating personal responsibility and personal morality when it comes to the commission of crimes or harmful acts, but a significant number of those people will be in there because of addiction issues, as Joe Biden said before he was in government. That's a true assessment of the situation. That's why that's so encouraging to see those people then pinioned in that manner and exploited in that manner, not because of any punishment, not because they're bad people, you know, although I recognise there's some complexity to this issue, but because it's economically expedient to do so. Most incarcerated workers are not provided with skills and training for their work that would help them secure jobs when they're released, Turner said. 70% said they did not receive any formal job training, and 70% said they couldn't afford essentials such as soap and phone calls with their wages. What this also demonstrates is that the prison system is not about reform, and potentially isn't even about punishment. It's about economics. They have created an underclass that has no choice but to work for basically slave wages. They've invented ways of sustaining that model. Oh, we can't release you, you didn't comply. Anything that benefits powerful interests is likely to be sustained. This is why I had such concerns during the pandemic. If it's financially beneficial to some of the most powerful interests in the world, if it grants the government the ability to make more regulations, then you have to be very alert as to what's happening. This issue is the same. If after reflection we concluded that this was unfair, it would be very difficult to end it because there's $11 billion of revenue at stake. The United States has a long problematic history of using incarcerated workers as a source of cheap labour and to subsidise the costs of our bloated prison system, said Turner, a principal human rights researcher with the ACLU's Human Rights Programme. Incarcerated workers are stripped of even the most minimal protections against labour exploitation and abuse. They are paid pennies for their work in often unsafe working conditions, even as they produce billions of dollars for states and the federal government. You could do the exact same thing and have a reward system associated with it. You could have job creation systems associated with it. You could have skills and certification for the people that participate in those programs. But none of those things will happen because there is a disingenuous agenda at play. The agenda is to exploit free labour and generate revenue, because all of the things I just listed could be easily instantiated using the enormous revenue generated by this practice. During his campaign, President Joe Biden pledged repeatedly to reduce the country's prison population. At one point, he said his administration could cut the number of incarcerated people by more than half, largely by investing in alternatives to prison. But they aren't going to be able to do that, because you can imagine that the people behind these prison practices are lobbying, are affiliated with other practices, are part of organisations and groups that will not permit $11 billion of revenue go to waste simply so you can have a more effective, fair system that will be better for all American people, including the victims of crime. Later, he said he didn't want to be bound by a percentage. I don't want to be bound by a percentage. I do my prison reforms the old-fashioned way, jazz style, like I did with Corn Pops. Yeah, man, I'm just going to create prison reforms in an ad hoc manner. Also, by more than half. What do you mean? 51%, 60%, 75%? What's this guy got against percentages? I don't like him. I don't like that lion cock with 2 titties. But he reiterated that he hoped to drastically lower the number of people locked up. But those promises are ringing hollow. The number of people in federal prisons is growing. Well, let's get a percentage on that one. Don't talk to me about percentage. As a candidate, Biden promised to usher in significant changes to the criminal justice system, saying that as president, he would strengthen America's commitment to justice and reform our criminal justice system. That campaign platform included expanding presidential clemency to free inmates serving sentences for some non-violent and drug crimes, ending the federal death penalty and solitary confinement, and decriminalising marijuana. In many ways, his campaign criminal justice reform policy proposal sought to fix problems he'd helped create in decades past as a senator. All those things I did, sorry about that. I'm going to get rid of them. When? I don't like days of the week, 3, 6, 5 o'clock, harvest festivals, Christmas, pumpkins. It's too confusing. They're almost as bad as percentages. Last June, more than 150 organisations sent a joint letter asking Biden to fulfil his campaign promise to end federal solitary confinement. That didn't happen. On the issue of marijuana specifically, Biden once said, "No one should be in jail because of marijuana. As president, I will decriminalise cannabis use and automatically expunge prior convictions." Yet last November, when the New York Post asked if he would pardon any marijuana inmates for Thanksgiving, he laughed off the question and said it will be just turkeys getting a reprieve. Oh, ha, 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 because turkeys can't work for nothing in prison. His administration has taken a cavalier attitude towards making good on the president's once urgent promises around criminal justice. So there you are. If you're looking for evidence for why we don't believe in the Democrat Party, why we don't believe in Joe Biden, why we don't believe in the system, there's yet more evidence, yet more broken promises, yet more lies, yet more betrayal, yet more rhetoric and propaganda prior to election, yet more failure during administration. You deserve better. We deserve better. $11 billion of profit is being put ahead of the interests not only of prisoners, but of ordinary Americans, of the people outside that could be doing those jobs, of the people that would be benefiting from a proper reform system focused on making people better citizens, better members of communities. But you ain't going to get that from the Democrat Party because they're in bed with corporations that need those dollars. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Your opinions are as valuable as mine. The information you give us is what forms this channel. That's why it's so vital that you turn on the notification bell, subscribe right now, give this video a thumbs up, and sign up to my mailing list. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at either one of these two cheeky little guys. And more important than any of that, please stay free.